when you decide to do something that 99% of people cannot do or don't want to do or just don't have the guts to do it, you better be ready to take what only 1% of people can take, right? We're back for a brand new episode of the Art of E-commerce. We've got Tony, the head mod
of everything at this point.
I was just calling you head of something, man. You're just head of podcasts now.
There you go.
My trusty, my right hand. You're literally on my right now. So I'm excited for this, man. We've got a brand new episode. What are we going to talk to? Do we know?
Yeah,
we've got
actually,
a very juicy one for you guys today. Yeah.
We do know, and it's actually a big one. It's quite ambitious to tackle as a topic overall. But let me throw a quote at you: "Money makes you happy." How would you react to that?
Dude, I feel like you don't really know the answer to that until you make the money, you know? Now, my take on that is, to really know whether that statement is true or not, you have to go through the paradigm yourself. I think there's a lot of things to be learned from other people as well, but obviously everyone's different, right? And so I think, in my personal opinion, like I don't think money buys happiness. I think obviously happiness is internal, money is external. Now, I do think it gives you certain things that can lead to a more fulfilled life. I think it's a tool that you can use and that you can use to amplify things, you know. And I think that's the main thing about money. It amplifies the person you already were without the money. Now, obviously, to get the money, you've grown as a person, right? So you're not going to be the same type of person. You're not going to have the same type of worries or the same type of focuses, right? For example, once you get the money out of the way, I think you can start resonating at a higher frequency, right? And start thinking of bigger things to do with your life and your bigger impact, how you can impact other people, because now you're not thinking about survival, right? And so your survival mechanism is kind of out of the way. And so it allows you that freedom to then think about the bigger picture, to then think about the bigger mission and your bigger impact legacy on this earth. But I just think it's a vehicle, it's a tool, right? And so you want to be careful, because otherwise you can get caught up, having achieved a goal, having achieved a financial milestone and not really feeling any different.
No, absolutely. I think that's a great cover. And when especially a lot of entrepreneurs, especially a lot of young entrepreneurs, are starting out, and it comes to like charging for their services, right? And really pitching that price. A lot of people have a lot of limiting beliefs regarding that, how much they're worth, how much value they can actually bring, and how much they can charge, right? When you started out, what were some of the key like limitations and really like mental blocks that you had to overcome to really be able to see everything you were bringing? Well,
here's the thing, man. I think first of all, at the start, it's normal to feel those type of doubts, right? Like I'm sure you feel them in the beginning stages. Like you can definitely feel like shit. Like, am I worth this amount, right? The difference with me, and I think one of the things that served me well, is I didn't really care too much about the money at the start, and I think I've carried that mindset throughout. Where for me at the very start, it was just obviously money's important. It gives you the oxygen to breathe, to build your business, but at the start, it was just getting as many, for example, in this case, as many clients to the door, right? Just doing as a great of a job as I possibly could, and I knew the money would come. Make sense? Like I think when you start focusing way too much on the money, you forget about your craft and you forget about like doing really good shit and building cool shit. Then once you focus on your craft, the money comes in abundance, right? And so I think that's one. And then when it comes to limiting beliefs, you just have to get a few wins under your belt. It's like your first 2K seems like a lot until you make that, and then you start building this kind of momentum that takes you to the 10K month mark and then even 100K per month mark. And so understanding that the version of you that's going to hit those figures is not the version of you that you currently are. So you're going to have to overcome a bunch of limiting beliefs, a bunch of, self-identities, and kind of the way you perceive yourself, and the way you do that is just by getting small wins under your belt. It doesn't happen overnight where you just wake up and you're like, you have this money mindset, I just see it like that. Like, you have to just chip away at it and get those initial wins, and then it just becomes, you kind of get accustomed to that level of success, and more success, success breeds more success.
No, yeah. So I mean, picking at that specifically, really, like, it's not about thinking about the money, it's thinking about the value you're going to be able to bring.
Yeah.
And honing in on your craft, as you said, right? Really becoming better every day at what you're doing, and knowing that your worth and the money that comes to you will increase through that, right?
It's in direct correlation at the end of the day. Like, and that's one of the things that we talked about in one of the previous podcasts, is like, as long as you focus on becoming better every single day, and as long as you focus on your growth, like, your business is going to grow in proportion to your personal growth, especially at the start, where you're kind of like a solo entrepreneur and you're figuring pretty much everything out yourself. So your income just grows in proportion to your level of personal growth.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that draws on to another thing we wanted to touch today.
Like, one thing, for example, in your case, man, like, if you think about it, right, when you decided to level up, like, how long ago was that?
Say maybe just over a year, like 15 months ago. Really started on my journey, especially through reading and consuming content, I'd say. Yeah.
Now, fast forward, what? It's been like, we started, because, I mean, for those of you, and I think, they'll discover and uncover our relationship as the podcast develops, but, you've been my, like, OG, friend, right? And I told you about, like, working together for a few things, like probably like 3-4 months ago, right? And even before that, we're already talking about doing stuff together and collaborating, and you're already in the space, right? So, like, yeah, it's just in correlation, right? To, like, you decided to level up.
Absolutely. And I mean, let's be honest, like, a year ago, relationship wise, we would have been in a place easily to be able to work together. But I wasn't at the point where I was able to bring value to the things you were doing, and in correlation with where you wanted to go as well. And it took me being able to consume a lot of content, really put my head down, make sacrifices to be able to get to a point where I feel like I can genuinely contribute. And I'm here not feeling out of place, and being able to speak to you about victories, and hopefully being able to help people and inspire others who end up listening.
What do you think helped you make that change, that switch? Like, you were just like, I'm gonna commit to this. I don't want to follow the traditional path, which was the one that you were heading down initially.
Honestly, I didn't really have a plan. Like, I was going to uni, like I had to. I was getting to the end of it. Originally, I was thinking of taking a gap year, seeing where life took me. And then, Corona hit, and I had to move back in with my parents, and I was really thinking, like, okay, what now? Like, what am I going to do now? There's not much to do. This next year is probably going to be locked away. After that, like, am I really going to want to pursue more education? Go down and work for some consulting company for 2 years, and then go do an MBA? No, like, that's never been what I wanted, right? And so, yeah, it was just about the really getting my head into place and being like, okay, to get to where I want to be, this is what I have to do. And then literally just finding that right roadmap for me.
Yeah. And on that topic, right? A lot of people say, well, when you start making the money is when you start getting happy, right? And we talked about that. But don't you feel like it's only because you only get happier and you feel more fulfilled because you've gone down the journey of that personal development, right? Where you, like, look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh shit, I'm a bit better than I was yesterday. Don't you think that's where, like, the fulfillment comes from? Like, looking at the journey now and looking at now where you're obviously monetizing and making money, and you would say, like, you could correlate to the fulfillment now, the sense of fulfillment now, to the money, but isn't it more like to the actual part that, to the actual fact that you developed yourself into a better individual?
Absolutely. And I mean, like you said earlier, they go hand in hand, right? And there's that whole myth of, like, overnight success. And of course, as well, a bunch of people who just show up on YouTube all of a sudden and they're these like big dons who make all this money and have all these life lessons to teach you. But it's not like they were born like that. You know, it's not like it's not even like you at age 16 knew what you would be doing age 22. You know, and it is that journey and that everyday pride in being able to wake up early, to really go to the trenches, to work hard, you know. And you know, as you said, the money comes as a result, and
it's a byproduct. Money's a byproduct.
Exactly. And once you get the momentum going, it's not like it's a fluke either. You know, it's not like, oh, you're gonna make money this month and then next month you're gonna go back to zero. Like, no, okay, there's fluctuations, and okay, you're not gonna be able to go up every time, but the trend and the progress is there to see.
That's such a important point. The fact that when you actually go on the journey and you build a real business and that comes from your personal development, you have such a strong baseline. Because if for whatever reason you go bankrupt, or you know, everything just goes to shit, right? Like, you're able to get back up because you have the skills, you are the vehicle. Makes sense? Whereas, like, you know, the people who are looking for the get rich quick or the short, you know, the shortcut, at the end of the day, like that puts you at a massive risk, right? Like, sure, you could, I mean, very few people do, right? But sure, you could have it, you know, maybe happen overnight or very quick. But if you haven't taken those progressive steps to become the type of person that can earn that type of success, once it's taken from you, you're done. Like, you either decide then to, like, okay, let me level up and let me become a person that knows how to build wealth and build abundance around me, and you know, have like a really just level up, right? Or I'm just, you know, I'm dead, you know.
For sure. And at the end of the day, the biggest asset you have is your mind, right? And your effort and the hours you've put in and the amount you know. So it's like you, for example, if you had everything taken away from you today, right, and you had to start from zero, how confident would you be that you'd be able to get back to where you are now?
100% confident. Not only that, but I'd be pumped. Because I'm like, let me skip the wasted time, you know? Let me skip, you know, for example, I think I took like 3 short months to sign my first client, which is not a bad, you know, not a bad amount of time, but I could do it in like a few days now. Because I've been in the trenches, you know, I've been beaten down. And you just learn from that. You know, getting back up and learning how to take failure is massive as well, right? So, one, the fact that I would be able to take failure and just face it and not be too faced by it, like, cool. I've learned how to deal with loss, and I've learned how to take a no, and I've learned how to get beaten down. I think that's important. You know, like, building up that character. You one of the things that you know, we even look for in mentees for my mentorship is, like, do they have character? Do they have what it takes? Because the entrepreneurial journey is not for everyone. It'll beat you down, you know, and it'll test the best of you, and it'll test your mental capacity, and it'll test how bad you want it. And so when you develop that mental resilience, and you have the mental resilience, you're a tough beast, you know, that can get back up from pretty much anything.
Absolutely. And I think that goes for everything in life, really. If you're able to take the no, if you're able to move on from setbacks, if you're able to bounce back when things really haven't gone your way for X amount of time, that's really when you're able to take steps forward, and you're able to learn from experiences and really move the needle forward, you know? Because if you get shot down and you decide, okay, this isn't for me, maybe I just need to go down the traditional route, or go do what everyone always told me to do, or maybe I didn't get this right all along, then you're never going to make it down where you want to go, right? It's learning to deal with that and take that.
Yeah, man. I feel like in today's society, that's one of the things that, and again, might sound like a grandpa, but that's one of the things that kids are missing nowadays. You know, I'd still consider ourselves young, right? But I feel like this generation coming up, they're used to this instant gratification and not being able to deal with the no. And obviously, this is a big generalization, right? You know, I've got mentees who are crushing it at 16 years old, you know, 17 years old, big generalization, right? But what I've seen is they have very little tolerance to the no and to failure, because they're so, you know, they're so used to getting things instant, right? And so that's one of the things that, honestly, one of the key determinants for success is, what is your ability to take a no and to take failure on the chin? and to take hits. Because otherwise, I mean, life is great, it's beautiful, but when you decide to do something that 99% of people cannot do or don't want to do or just don't have the guts to do it, you better be ready to take what only 1% of people can take, right? So it's massive.
100%. I think a big part of that is also understanding that, like, okay, there's an element of nature in it, right? Like some people are just born and they can take this stuff more easily and they get less attached to it emotionally and they would just move on. But there's a big element of nurture, right? Of you learning to do this, okay, maybe you grew up and you weren't the most outgoing person, or you weren't, or you were very reserved and kept to yourself, right? Does that mean you can change? Absolutely. Do you have to be the same person you were last year? No. It's up to you to decide who you are and where you're going, and that's really the key to beating the limiting beliefs, in my opinion, at least, to be able to conceptualize yourself as whoever you want to conceptualize yourself as, right?
Yeah. Dude, one of the first books that I read, actually, I think the first one, first self-development book, was Growth Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck, I think that's her name. And that honestly it's such a big breakthrough for me. Like, I could not stop thinking about it. It's like, oh shit, like I can grow into the person I want to become and I want to be. Like, I'm not just this person with these weaknesses and strengths, and that's how I see everything nowadays. And I realized, oh shit, like most people don't think this way, but even with this podcast, I'm like, so what? We'll be absolute terrible in the first few episodes, but then we'll get the grasp of it. Then we'll do, it'll force us to do research on how to get better. Even this morning we were analyzing like the first episode, which was like pretty terrible. Like we're debating on whether we should put it out. We look back at it and maybe it wasn't as bad as we thought, but it's kind of like this, constant growth is analyzing. Oh shit, like this is where we're messing up. Let's fix that. Let's incorporate this and constantly in this constant tweaking. And that's like something that I feel people really need to take in. The fact that you can seriously grow into the person you want to become and that you dream of just by chipping away at it and deciding to commit to something, whether it's with, like, I'm using this podcast because, the latest project, it's like, let's just commit to mastery. Let's like learn about audio equipment and learn about like, how to clip things and like how to build structure around this. And it's really cool when you commit to something and then on the other side you come out and you're like a completely different version. You've developed skills that you didn't have before. Absolutely,
man. And I mean, again, we've been friends for a long time. We have a lot of mutual friends from way back in the day, and I remember one specifically. He comments on your sales, right? And he used to say, like, when you were like 16, 17, he would have never thought that you'd be able to sell like you do nowadays. And then he sees you now and he's just completely impressed. And it's that fact that, as you said, like you adopted that growth mindset and that ability to take no and to, learn from what you're doing wrong to be able to take that next step and really develop and evolve. And, nothing is set in stone. You're completely moldable. As you have proven yourself in that sphere,
Yeah, dude, I mean, it's funny. I was terrible at sales. My first sales school was piss poor. Like it was embarrassing. And yeah, I could have either said like, oh, this is not for me. I'm not a true salesperson. Or I could have committed to mastery, like just obsess over sales and psychology and how to interact with people on a call and how to find win-wins and how to negotiate and how to have an irresistible offer, right? And how to get people excited about what I had to offer and how to just get more passionate and learn body language and all this stuff, right? So it was that decision of let me really get good with this, right? Because I was terrible. Like I would look back over my sales goals and I'd be like, oh my days. Which, funny enough, like I'm a bit of a psycho in this case, but it pumps me up. I'm like, I'm excited to see where I'm at in a year, in a year's time, because it's gonna be a completely different version. And that's one of the things that excites me the most. Like I remember one of the, recently Actually, no, like probably a year ago. And we always talk about this. Like at the start of the year, that conversation we always have, like we always call each other. We're always like, dude, I'm just so excited to see where I'm at a year from now. Like one of the things that I look forward to the most in this year is just to know where I'm at a year from now, because it's going to be a complete different version of yourself only when you decide to commit to mastery, only when you decide to really take those bold risks and do stuff that makes you uncomfortable and you've never done before.
Absolutely. And at the same time, on the other head of the coin, right? Like looking back at the end of the year and thinking, wow, in January this year, I was like this, and this is how I've improved in all these areas of my life, you know, and how I've taken a step forward, and really plotting out like, okay, I've improved here, but how can I improve here? What am I going to do to level up in this area? Yeah. You know, maybe your sales is good, but your outreach is poor, or maybe, you know, you need to learn how to improve your personal brand.
Yeah.
Or these small things that are really gonna, you know, add up over time to give you big wins, right? And
I love this game. I love this game, man. It's literally like you unlock different levels.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think that's a great way to start wrapping things up in the when it comes to money and happiness, because in the end of the day, right, it's these things we're talking about. It's this growth mindset. It's this fact that you're taking a step every day that brings the happiness, right? And the money, as we said as well, is the byproduct of it. And that's really, you know, what you have to show for the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, straight up. It's just the result. It's just the scoreboard. It tells you whether, you know, things are working or not. But also another thing is like, and we can wrap with this, right? But another thing is people think that the only way to measure progress when it comes to business is money. And I see this a lot with mentees. Is like, if they haven't gotten money in the bank from a client, they don't think they're moving forward. Yet you're jumping on a ton of sales goals, right? Maybe you're getting beaten down, right? But you're jumping on a ton of sales goals. You're improving your service delivery. You're hiring A players, right? You're only getting closer to that big breakthrough, right? So that's another thing people want to keep in mind is the fact that, like, look, money is the end result, right? But the byproduct of putting the work is you know, manifests also getting closer to that big breakthrough, that, you know, first sale, that first client, right? It's not just, oh, I've got PayPal notification or Stripe notification, good, you know, finally the work has paid off. No, like, it's literally every time you jump on a sales call, every time you do something wrong, if you commit to mastery, I would watch over my sales calls. I'm like, thank God, because I'm never gonna make that mistake again. And so you get a bunch of these things, and you tweak these things, and you commit to never make that mistake again, and all of a sudden you've got a really solid sales call, right? And I'm just using that as an example, but if you have this approach where you're taking those lessons and you're taking those mistakes and you're fixing them, you're actually getting closer to that big goal, that big end result. It's not just like, oh, finally have a Stripe notification and, you know, finally the work has paid off.
It's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. That's why most people give up, because they don't see that progress. And I see this with a lot of people, right? They don't measure success. They only measure success by that financial gain. Whereas a lot of it is the personal gain that then transfers into that financial gain.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that was a good conversation. Slowly getting better, I feel. But yeah, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and smash the like button on the video. Now, if you're doing audio only, make sure that you subscribe for more episodes. And yeah, let's talk some more.
Let's get it.
Peace.